I'm Natasha Kirchek, and thanks for joining us from our studios in Israel. Coming up in today's newscast, the Israeli government passes a controversial new law. An Israeli who served in the I.D.F. is convicted for trying to join ISIS. And watch out, Guinness Book of World Records. Some Tel Aviv residents are building their way into history, one Lego at a time. Stay tuned for the latest news in Israel. After an epic series of all-nighters, the Knesset has just passed a controversial police recommendations bill into law. The new legislation blocks police from recommending criminal indictments to the Attorney General in high-profile cases and has already ignited intense debate within the country. Though the new law doesn't apply to current corruption investigations surrounding Prime Minister Netanyahu, critics call this a law of shame, saying it was clearly designed to protect Netanyahu from public fallout and possible future charges. This conflict of interest is why Netanyahu actually abstained from the final vote, along with Labor Minister Chaim Katz, who is also under investigation for alleged corruption. Despite this, the bill still managed to pass through the floor with 59 votes to 54. The law's opponents, however, have not given up the fight. They've already filed a petition with Israel's High Court to overturn the new legislation. With weekly protests against this law and government corruption charges continuing to spread all over the country, clearly this is a debate that will continue for quite a while. Well, clashes have erupted between Jewish worshippers and Palestinians at the tomb of Yoshua bin Nun, a holy site located in the West Bank. The army secured the area to allow Jewish visitors to pray at the site, which is when they were bombarded with stones and even Molotov cocktails. ILTV's Aaron Porras is here with the full story.
Thank you very much, Natasha. And yeah, I think it's also important to note that last night's incident was one of several. Yeah.
Right. What else can you tell us about these newer incidents?
I'll get to most of the details in my report, but what I can tell you right now is that they're very likely in relation to the recent decision made by the United States over Jerusalem. And of course, holy sites in the West Bank have already kind of been a flashpoint between Palestinians and Israelis, or especially Jews or religious Jews, religious-looking Jews, I should say. But again, I'll get to all the details.
Well, let's check out your report for some more details.
No injuries have been reported. After the situation died down, the group of roughly 1,000 Jewish worshippers were able to pray at the tomb as planned. But a similar incident also occurred in the Palestinian village of Abu Dis, located close to East Jerusalem. Israeli Public Security Minister Gilad Erdan was touring the area when his vehicle suddenly came under rock and Molotov cocktail attack. Erdan is unharmed and says the attack clearly reflects the need for boosted security in the area. But others argue that the lawmaker was asking for trouble by entering the village in the first place, which is cut off from Jerusalem by a separation barrier and is populated by Palestinians in Area B of the West Bank. Israeli courts have also just convicted the Palestinian terrorist who murdered 3 members of the Solomon family last July at the height of the summer's Temple Mount conflict. He's now been convicted of 3 murder counts. The victims' families and several key Israeli lawmakers have been urging for the death penalty in this trial, but prosecutors have asked for a sentence of 4 life sentences in prison instead.
Well, following the United States example, Guatemala has become the second country to announce that it will relocate its embassy to Jerusalem. Though Palestinian leaders and many members of the international community condemned Guatemala's decision, the Central American country is doubling down and defending its decision.
Retornar la embajada de Guatemala a Jerusalén, la cual se hará en el momento que sea, pues, de los tiempos necesarios. Ahora, yo no consideraría que esta debe ser una decisión la cual amenace a ningún otro país, porque es una decisión de política exterior de Guatemala. Guatemala ha mantenido unas relaciones diplomáticas y unas muy buenas relaciones con el Estado de Israel.
Guatemala's foreign minister says that not only have relations with Israel been strong, but now they could get even better. Israel has praised Guatemala's decision to relocate its embassy, a move that came after the UN passed a resolution condemning Trump's decision to officially recognize Jerusalem as Israel's capital. Netanyahu has said that at least 10 other countries are considering a similar move as well. Honduras and Paraguay are expected to be next in line. The overwhelming majority of the international community, however, says relocating the embassies threatens peace talks between Israel and the Palestinians and destroys any chances for a two-state solution. The Palestinians have since declared that they no longer see the United States as an impartial negotiator in the peace process and have called Guatemala's decision disappointing, to say the least. Well, at this time, roughly 50 Israelis have been suspected of trying to leave the country and join the Islamic State. Typically, these Israelis are Arab citizens, but now one man has just been convicted of trying to join ISIS, an Oleh Hadash immigrant who made Aliyah to Israel as a teenager and who actually served in the I.D.F. ILTV's Brett Allen Smith is here with details on this case.
Thank you, Natasha. Well, first I'll just state the obvious here. No, this man does not fit the typical profile of Israelis who defected to the Islamic State. And we've learned from the prosecution's indictment that he originally immigrated to Israel under the Jewish right to return law. While serving in the I.D.F., he apparently converted to Islam and has since been living in an Arab village in the north. By my math, that means he's an Israeli citizen. He's been that way during the Second Intifada, the Second Lebanon War, multiple Gaza wars. This guy is a father of 5. Needless to say, it's an unusual case.
Now that the guilty verdict has come in, how did investigators catch him in the first place?
Well, police actually had their eye on this man for quite a while, at least half a year prior to his arrest. In 2016, he was flagged for publicly supporting the Islamic State. He then defied police orders to desist and started making contact with various ISIS operatives in Syria. He spent the next several months planning ways to get to Syria to enlist and was caught trying to fly to Turkey earlier this month, which, as we know now, is a common hub for the Islamic State to get people into Syria. And I've got the rest of the details in my report.
Valentin Vladimir Maslevsky was 18 years old when he made Aliyah and immigrated to Israel from Belarus. Both his age and his Jewish bloodline qualified him for the country's mandatory army service. According to the Shin Bet, Maslevsky was serving in the I.D.F. when he decided to convert to Islam. The father of 5 was flagged at Ben Gurion Airport earlier this year attempting to fly on a one-way ticket to Turkey, where intelligence agents say he then intended to travel to Syria and join the Islamic State. He was arrested shortly thereafter and confessed as such to police, but insisted that he didn't intend to join the Islamic State's army, but rather merely wanted to fulfill a religious commandment and live under Islamic law. He apparently told investigators that he didn't realize Syria was an enemy state of Israel. However, an investigation revealed dozens of messages between Maslevsky and various agents of the Islamic State in Syria and elsewhere, and repeated attempts to join the terror organization. The Shin Bet had their eye on Maslevsky for several months prior to this arrest, and his sentencing trial is set for early next year.
Well, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has just announced that he's set to start rolling out his 50 on 50 campaign. It's a foreign aid initiative which aims to give a boost to friendly developing nations by distributing out $50 million across 50 different countries. According to early reports, each country will receive a package designed for the country's individual needs. The money will be spent on things like the latest innovations in agriculture, water desalination, security, and intelligence operations, and much more. A selection process that is looking at countries across Asia, Africa, and Eastern Europe has already begun, and the initiative is intended both to help nations that need it and to hopefully garner support in the international community where Israel previously had little to none. Well, last week we got a sneak peek of Israeli singer-songwriter Omer Netzer's newest album. Check out this talented musician. Joining us now in the studio is an up-and-coming star here in Israel, Omer Netzer. He burst into the scene a year and a half ago after his song Angel became a massive hit throughout Israel. And now he's just released his second album. Let's have a listen.
My coffee and I wait for the words. I think what would happen if I leave it all. If I wait here to die. I'm sorry family, cause I have to leave now.
All right, Omer, you've just released your second album, right?
That's right.
So tell us a little bit about this album. What is it called?
The name is Sweet Mistake. Yeah, so I had a lot of mistake on the way, and that's it. So if you can see the track list of the album, you not see like a track named Sweet Mistake. So this is the
right. So it's just like the song names are a list of the mistakes you made in your life, basically.
Basically, yeah.
Okay, interesting. And I'm assuming are they more like love ballads?
It's yeah, I love ballet, and it's how I look at the world right now. So
Okay, very
yeah.
cool. And what's interesting is that you actually don't live in the center of Israel. You don't live in Tel Aviv like most musicians.
No, I live in the north.
You live in the north, so
Yeah,
you definitely have
that's
a slightly different perspective, I would say, of kind of what is
How I
happening in Israel,
yeah,
right?
Yeah, how I see the things. Yes, of course. I try to look at in a different way, like not from the inside and from the outside.
Absolutely. Well,
Yeah.
so I understand that you also travel around the world performing, not just here in Israel.
Yeah, that's right.
What is that like? Where have you performed, and kind of how is it to represent Israel as a performer?
So I just come back from Lithuania. I just toured there about a week ago, and we had 3 shows day after day. And it is a pleasure for me to represent Israel and to be an Israeli artist. And I tried to make, like when I met the people after the show and after the concert, of course, I tried to give them the positive way. So when I live there, when I just return to Israel,
they have a different perspective of what's happening here.
Of course.
Now, you know, and it's interesting too because you're performing in English and not just in Hebrew, which
That's right.
also shows the world that, hey, we speak English over here too. Okay, so so you're going to be performing here in Israel in January, correct?
Right,
where are you going to be performing?
Barbie, Tel Aviv. Yeah.
Okay. What
January,
date?
January 6th.
January 6th. All right, my friend. So if you're visiting Israel, or if you're
please.
already here and you want to see Omer Netzer, a John Mayer sound-alike, I personally think, January 6th at the Barbie, right?
Yep, that's
All right,
right.
thanks for coming in, Omer.
Thank you so much.
All right, guys, life isn't a popularity contest, right? Well, try telling that to the men and women who have just been named America's most admired humans. 2 Jewish men cracked the top 10, Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders at number 7, and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at number 9. Not too shabby. Well, the poll for America's most admired men and women named former U.S. President Barack Obama as the most popular man in America, followed by current President Donald Trump in second and Pope Francis in third. Sadly, not a single Jewish woman cracked the list of the top 10 most popular women. Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and Oprah Winfrey topped the poll in that order, though Jewish American Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg nearly squeezed onto the list. But to see both Sanders and Netanyahu on the top 10 and pretty close in ranking certainly says a lot about how both Jewish and Israeli issues are on the minds of the average American, even if those issues are often a cause for debate. Either way, let's hope this popularity contest doesn't get to anyone's head. All right, you probably don't associate fiery political debates with the name Rachael Ray. The celebrity chef is typically known more for her awesome 30-minute meal recipes, but Ray has just found herself cooking with a new kind of fire when she tweeted that hummus and tabbouleh salad was Israeli cuisine as opposed to Arab or Palestinian. This debate is certainly nothing new. Critics have immediately jumped all over Rachael Ray's tweet, pointing out that even the names of the food themselves are actually Arabic. And true, dishes like hummus, tabbouleh, and za'atar-laced foods have historical origin to Arab countries throughout the Middle East. On the flip side, though, millions of modern-day Israelis actually descended from many of these Arabic countries, bringing recipes and that heritage with them. And Israel itself, of course, is a mixing pot of many cultures. Some argue that calling hummus and falafel Israeli is akin to culturally erasing, even stealing Arab and Palestinian heritage. But interestingly enough, most Israelis proudly admit foods like hummus are originally Arabic. Certain styles of hummus are even named after Palestinian villages. And the saying that one day we'll eat hummus in Damascus is a common Israeli metaphor for multicultural peace with Israel's neighbors someday. Rachael Ray probably didn't expect to find herself at the center of a political debate, but certainly the deliciousness of hummus is something that everyone can agree on. In 2017, nearly 60 million people played fantasy online sports in the United States and Canada alone. That number is easily multiplied when you take the whole world into account. Yet, even though soccer is the most popular sport internationally, American football is the version most followed on fantasy accounts. Well, joining us now in the studio is a founder of Real Manager Club, Roy Tsarfati, to tell us about how his company is addressing this deficit. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you for having us.
All right, so tell us a little bit about Real Manager Club.
Okay, let's start. Real Manager is a product designed and created by 4 young guys who met at Ben Gurion University in Be'er Sheva, which is not a usual place to start a high-tech company. What connected the people together was love and devotion for soccer, for sport, and obviously for gaming, okay?
Right.
People love gaming, people want to combine their passion for soccer, okay? No other game has more emotions than soccer.
Well, I mean, but like we said, in the U.S., I think fantasy American football is a lot more popular, which is interesting. So you decided to focus on soccer specifically.
Exactly.
How is your platform different than other fantasy clubs out there, apart from the sport difference?
Right. The sport difference is a major factor, okay?
Yeah.
Because football is based on a lot of statistics that is built and created during the years. And in soccer, you won't find that much database like you have in football and baseball, hockey, any other sport you might think of. Beside that, we know that one of the major problems in fantasy sport games is a lack of game functionality and user engagement, because usually people tend to enter the game maybe once, twice a week. That's it. Make some changes, and that's it.
Right.
They're out of the game. We have social features that enables them to enjoy the game,
Beautiful.
to play more, and to put more of their time, actually.
So I see that the version up here, well, I saw it in Hebrew, but now it's in English. What languages do you have this platform in?
Hebrew and English.
Hebrew and English. Okay, great. So this is something that our viewers in America can also access. Very cool. All right. Well, I mean, this is a platform to go to, my friends, if you love soccer and you love gaming. Very, very cool. Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very much for having me.
All right, a team of Israeli volunteers are gunning for a Guinness World Record inspired by the heartbreaking story of a little boy. Check this out. I want you to try and imagine a toy tower that's 36 feet tall. That's about the equivalent of a 10-story building, and it's even bigger than my own apartment complex. Well, that's the height of the tower right behind me, which happens to be completely constructed out of Legos. Is it tall enough to beat the Guinness World Record? Well, that's what volunteers across Tel Aviv are certainly hoping. This is the OMalley Tower, 118 feet of plastic brick magic. But where does it get its name? Sadly, from a very tragic place.
It's made for the memorial of Omer Sayag, who was a young boy, died at the age of 8.5. He suffered from cancer.
Little Omer Sayag was often forced to stay inside because of his cancer, and that's how he ended up becoming a legendary Lego constructor. He even built a replica of the Taj Mahal. His work was so inspiring that when he tragically passed away in 2014, his loved ones found a way to keep his creativity going.
And his teachers, Ben and Shirley, had a dream to build a memorial tower made out of building blocks because he loved building blocks so much.
Building a 36-meter tower is no easy feat. Just look at the wires that are holding this thing up. A team of professional engineers, constructors, and safety experts have worked around the clock this week to make it happen. But they've done it, and now they're just waiting for a Guinness World Records representative to measure it. The previous record was 35.05 meters, built in Milan in 2015. But from where I'm standing, the OMalley Tower has already made its mark. The 36-meter tall imprint of a little boy whose memory might just make history. Israel is home to thousands of archaeological masterpieces, and now it's my pleasure to introduce my next guest, Rivka Shefer of Mosaic Art, an Israeli artist whose works are inspired by this ancient art form. Thanks so much for coming in. So we see some beautiful mosaics here.
Yes, this is some of my little artworks.
Just some of your little, okay, so you make much bigger artwork as well. How did you start, using mosaics?
Well, all my life I was an artist.
Yeah.
And I was a teacher of art and science and technology. So when I retired, I decided to focus on the mosaics.
Yeah, and this has, go ahead.
Because after traveling in Israel and Rome and Greece and Sicily, I was inspired very much about of the ancient art of
Ancient
mosaic.
art, right. So a lot of the work that we're seeing here has a
Yes.
historical touch to it, right? You can give us an example right here. What do we have?
Here we have like an ancient, it's
Phoenix, maybe. It looks like
maybe. Phoenix.
Yeah,
Yes.
okay. And we have the tree over here. This is beautiful. And so right now, this art is on display for sale?
Yes.
Okay.
It's also for sale, but when I'm working, I'm doing like it's for myself.
Yeah, of course.
And some people say, I want to buy it, so.
Why not? I mean, this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
It is
so
beautiful,
you
yes.
also, what kind of materials are you using to do these mosaics?
I'm using traditional materials like stones and pebbles, using it together with modern materials like stained glass and ceramic tiles.
Wow, so you have a mix of modern
Yes.
and ancient
Yes.
together, which is beautiful. All right, so for those of our viewers who are interested in getting their hands on one of these pieces of artwork of yours, where can they find?
Yes, some of my artworks are presented in galleries in Israel. On March, some of my works will be presented in a gallery in Berlin.
Beautiful,
And
okay.
in my studio in Tel Aviv, in the Green Galilee, Western Galilee, everyone is invited to come and see my
watch you make
artwork.
this. I mean, it must be interesting to watch you make it as well.
Yes, yes.
So, Rivka, thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you very
beautiful
much
artwork.
for inviting me. And I think that everyone can make mosaic with the right guidance.
Yeah. Well,
So-
maybe that's your next role, is to start teaching as
Yes.
well.
Okay, thank
All
you very
right.
much.
Thank you. All right, and now for this week's Top 5 with ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh.
Rumors have been buzzing lately that Princess-to-be Meghan Markle might potentially wear an Israeli original design to the royal wedding. And until the decision's been made, I'm here to bring you the top 5 best-known Israeli wedding dress designers. At number 1 on our list is the designer rumored to create the royal gown, Inbal Dror. Inbal graduated from Shenkal Fashion Art Academy and has since made quite a name for herself worldwide. Dror even designed dresses and evening wear for some of the biggest names in the world, like the Queen Bee herself, Beyonce. Let's hope we see her next design at the royal wedding next year. At number 2, we have Alon Livnet. The young designer has been active since he was just 17 years old, working with some of the most luxurious European fashion houses. Livnet even trained at Alexander McQueen in London and Roberto Cavalli in Florence, so it's safe to say he's got experience. Alon has dressed huge Hollywood celebs like Kim Kardashian, Kendall Jenner, Lady Gaga, and Beyonce. Trust me, he's just getting started. So third on our list is Berta Bridal. With close to 2 million followers on Instagram, Berta is one of the best-known Israeli designers worldwide. Berta founded the brand back in 2004, is known for her sleek style and blend between modern, vintage, and retro designs. Berta was actually named as one of the 5 best wedding dress designers in the world by Elle Italy. Her latest collection was inspired by floral and botanical diversity, and as Berta says it, every bride should flourish. Number 4 on our list is Israeli designer Galia Lahav, who is best known for her use of illusion lace and is definitely not afraid to add a little sexuality to her designs. Each dress is custom made with every bead hand sewn and makes every woman feel like an actual princess. The Israeli designer actually created custom gowns for each one of Serena Williams' bridal parties, so Lahav is clearly a designer to look out for. Last on our list is Lihi Hod, also a graduate from the famous Shenkal, the leading fashion design school here in the Holy Land, and went on to work for Dior in Paris. When coming back to Israel, Lihi established her own signature studio and has since been on the radar. She even won the 2014 and 2016 Best Wedding Dress Designer in Israel award. For all you brides-to-be out there, Lihi's designs are sold worldwide, so don't you worry. That's all for today's Top 5. Back to you.
It's time for our Hebrew word of the day. Well, with all this wedding talk, today's word is tabat, which is how you say ring in Hebrew. Someone very wise once said, if you like it, then you should have put a tabat on it. You know, a ring. Not just any old tabat though, you need a wedding tabat, a tabat nisuim. But a tabat doesn't need to be crazy fancy or dripping in diamonds to be meaningful. At the end of the day, a tabat is just a symbol of the endless cycle of love. Well, except for that one magic tabat from that movie, Lord of the Rings, or as it's called in Hebrew, Lord of the Tabaot. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy with moderate winds through the center and north of Israel and a low of about 56 or 13 degrees Celsius. The weekend is expected to remain cloudy with little change in temperatures and an average high of roughly 68 or 20 degrees Celsius. All right, that's it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.47 shekels to the American dollar. Remember to sign up for our daily newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Natasha Kirchuk, and thanks for watching.